immunity, and biological threats. When you hear the term herd immunity, what do you think of? Do you think of a big group of cows or sheep getting vaccinated? Many people have no understanding of what herd immunity actually is or how important it is to our country. The term herd immunity refers to a means of protecting an entire community from disease by immunizing the mass of its population. These vaccinations protect more than just the vaccinated person because when a significant part of the community is immunized against contagious disease, the most members are protected because there is little opportunity for outbreak. Currently, parents really don't have a choice as to whether or not their children are immunized before attending public schools. The CDC states that state and local vaccination requirements for daycare and school entry are very important tools for maintaining high vaccination rates because these in turn lower preventable diseases. Many people feel current vaccination protocols are much too lenient already because there are certain religious and philosophical exemptions that parents can claim and avoid having their child vaccinated. The CDC even points out that many of these people live in the same geographical area, and because of that, they are at risk for much higher outbreaks. Because of this anti-vaccine sentiment, there was even a recent measles outbreak at Disneyland which spread to 14 states and caused 102 outbreaks of a disease that was almost completely eradicated a few years earlier. With measles, 90% of the people must be vaccinated in order to establish herd immunity. So what is the history of this movement? In the early years of the smallpox vaccination, clergy people claimed that smallpox was God's punishment and shouldn't even be treated. The first ordered mandatory vaccination began in England in 1853 and was called the Vaccination Act of 1853. The anti-vaccination movement made its way to America in 1879 with British anti-vaccinist William Tebb when he visited the United States. In 1902, after a smallpox outbreak, the Board of Health of Cambridge started requiring all residents to be vaccinated. One man refused, and his case went all the way to the Supreme Court. In 1905, the court ruled that a state can enact compulsory laws to protect the public from communicable diseases. So what really stirred up the anti-vaccination segment in America? In 1998, a British doctor released a research paper investigating the relationship between the MMR vaccination and bowel disease and autism. In 2011, that paper was found to be fraudulent, but the damage had already been caused because of the public opinion of the vaccination. So let's think about this as a universal threat, and the anti-vax movement can be part of that. Biological weapons have been developed and are being produced by several countries such as Japan and Syria. Some of these diseases are smallpox, botulism, plagues, and several others. Despite laws being put into place to prohibit the use of these weapons, there is still a threat, and there is for sure a need for nations to carry out vaccinations of populations in preparation for attacks using bioweapons. When more and more of our population is in the belief that they should not vaccinate the children, then it will affect the rest of the nation. There is a need for our country to be required to vaccinate its people to ensure that there is herd immunity against highly contagious diseases that may be used against us as bioweapons. If the object of bioterrorism is to cause panic, fear, and chaos, as well as high mortality rates, then disease from bioterrorism is an excellent way to do this by weakening our political and economical structure of our nation. Biological weapons can cause massive deaths, and they are often difficult to identify them as being the result of terrorism. Emergency vaccination planning presents many challenges according to the CDC. It's difficult for them to predict which vaccinations will be needed and what to do in the event of a global shortage. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention supports countries' needs to plan, implement, and evaluate emergency vaccination responses. Countries must be prepared to respond to public health threats at any time.